What's up, guys?
All right.
All right, guys, welcome. Thanks for being here again. Today, I'm super excited to announce my main man, Craig Wilburn from Gainesville, Florida, the leader and captain of Team Dynamo. Is that right, bro, man?
Yeah, that's it. That's
All
it.
right. So, Craig, just for everyone, give us a little bit background of you. How long have you been in real estate? Are you from Florida? How did you end up in Florida? Talk about your family. Let's get a little background on Craig.
A little insight. Okay. So I'll give you the elevator speech, right? So 18 years in real estate so far. So it started when I was, I think, 3.5 is when
Okay.
I got in. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Originally, I'm a New Yorker. So I'm from Brooklyn, New York,
Okay.
born and raised there. And after I finished high school, I wound up going to college in upstate New York, Rochester, and it was so cold and disgustingly cold that eventually I decided to move to Florida. And
Okay.
so Florida took up residence here. I've been here for a long time and got into real estate 18 years ago. So have wife, married, have 5 children.
Ooh.
They got a full house, but one's gone right now. So
Okay.
age ranges is 21 years old is my oldest, and
Yeah.
they go all the way down to about 8 years
Okay.
old. So we
All
got a
right.
good
So you
spread.
got the full gamut on the age. You must have had if you have a 21-year-old, you were what, 16 when you had your first kid?
Something like that.
That's awesome, Craig. So thanks for sharing that. So Craig, you're also I know you as a person that's very involved. So talk to us about the National Association of Realtors and how you're involved there.
Okay, yeah. So, obviously I started my involvement at the local level. That's where it began to begin with. So, local level is great. Got me an opportunity to, it's a funny story. Like what happened was I had someone, I was, top producing agent. I was just building my team. It's like 2005, 2006, seven, that time frame. The market was going nuts.
Yeah.
And I had someone tap me on my shoulder at a Starbucks one day, and she was the incoming president for the local association. And she says, "Hey, why don't you come join one of my committees?" And something like, I said, "Look, I ain't got no time for that stuff." And you guys that do all that board stuff are the ones that don't sell much real estate, so you got
Yeah.
time to do that. And I appreciate what you do. And she said to me, she says, "So you want to be that guy that takes from the association and never gives back, huh?" I
Ooh.
said, "Oh, golly." It was like, take the dagger and just pull it in.
Right.
So anyway, I joined one of her committees and, really got interested in what was going on, and eventually joined the board of directors and then became the president of the association, which opened the door for me to start getting involved with state activities, national activities. My first national trip that I went on was in New Orleans back in 2010,
Hmm.
and I was blown away actually by what was going on there. And from there, I decided to get involved more intently
Got it.
and got on some NAR committees. And so from now, I've done a lot of different things at the NAR level, state level, director of not director, but I've been a district vice president
Okay.
for the state of Florida also. So we've done a lot of things with NAR too.
That's awesome. So Craig, just a little plug here on that. You did have that conversation in Starbucks, right? And you
Yeah.
were that person saying like, "Oh yeah, you're the ones that don't really sell that much real estate, right?"
Hmm.
So how has that impacted your business, and why is it important now?
Well, put it this way: I would not be on this call right now with you,
Mhm.
with your group, if I had not chosen so long ago to be involved at the national level. Being involved with the national level is where I met somebody you guys may have heard of. His name is Tommy Choi, or Chow, or something like
Yeah,
that. I can't
something like
remember,
that.
something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And so, anyway, him and I, we met at a national group that we had a PAG that was put together for YPN, and we made acquaintance, and him and I just clicked from the very beginning. So became very good friends. And so, yeah, I mean, the contacts and the contacts you make, the network you can develop, the information you get, so bringing back in Gainesville,
Hmm.
when I'm here and I get information from the National Association, dealing with clients and customers is a whole different level. My level of communication is much higher than the average agent. And then when people need referrals, we refer out probably between 30 to 45 referrals a year and receive that many. Also, we probably receive 40 to 50. We close 30 to 40 homes a year just from incoming referrals because people know who I am from doing all my involvement with NAR.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it's been a win for you, not only being involved and, obviously leaving an impact, but the business it's been great for you as well.
Yeah,
So that's awesome.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks for your service, Craig. I know you're heavily involved, so thank you. I appreciate it. And you're a great leader out there. So let's talk about your real estate journey really quickly. So when did you get into real estate?
So 2002 is when the journey began. Single agent, got into the business. I wasn't really trying to sell a lot of real estate when I first got into business. My goal was to learn the industry, learn the product. What I call it raising my real estate IQ, because I didn't know anything. So my transition from what I did previously in sales to real estate was very abrupt. I won't get into that right now, but it was a very abrupt transition. And so I had to take some time and just kind of learn what I was doing. Right. So in that process, I just went and got my GRI. I heard about the GRI, got the GRI, did all of my post-licensing classes and all that good stuff. So just trying to get my IQ up. Then I started going out and, lead generating and those kind of things. And so 2002 was my first year. In April, I ended up closing my first house. I think it was like in July, I closed one house. And then from September to the end of the year, I closed about 25 more houses that year. Oof. And my first full year was 2003. And working as a single agent, I closed 55 houses that year.
Wow. Single agent, 55 houses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dang.
Now, granted, that was before we had Zillow and Realtor.com and the internet, and it was all. Yeah, I think back, like, how did I do that? I don't even know how I did that.
Yeah, right.
Just grinding. We call it working 8 days a week.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. And Craig, what did you do prior to 2002 when you got into the business?
I worked for a company called Altel. They were a cell phone company. They did communications basically. So I was an outside sales rep. So I went around and I marketed phones, cell phones, pagers. Back then, we sold long distance services, internet. Back then.
And what's two questions here? How did you stumble upon getting into real estate? And then two, what did you learn from that experience that was helpful for you in real estate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, literally, the short version of my story, I literally was I've always been in a place of seeking God's direction in my life. Mm-hmm. And in a moment where I was alone, essentially, I just felt like I needed to do something different, but I didn't know what it was. My wife was an engineer, and we had just gotten married in 2001. And so she was thinking about changing careers also. So I had one of our very good friends was a real estate broker. And so I asked her to talk to my wife because I thought my wife would be very good at real estate. And so we all had lunch together. And I said, hey, Deborah, tell Rhoda about real estate. I think she's going to be good at doing real estate. So the three of us sat there, and she's telling my wife how awesome she would be in real estate. Once we got done with the lunch, I called my wife and I said, so what do you think about you doing real estate? She says, I don't think it's for me, but I kind of think it's for you. I said, I was thinking the same thing. So we began to, just do some more homework and figure out what it would take for me to get into real estate. Okay. And about 4 months later, we realized that we had to save money. Everybody said, hey, look, when you get into real estate, you might not make any money right away. Right. It'd be prudent for you to put aside 6 months to a year of savings of income. So we went back to the house, got the budget together, figured out, okay, take me about 1.5 to 2 years before I can save that kind of money doing what I was doing in sales. So we had a plan. 4 months later, we're having dinner with her family. And the long story short, through a series of emotional things that were going on at that time in our life, her grandfather decided he wanted to bless us financially. We haven't told anybody anything. He gave us a check for the exact amount of money that we needed that we had budgeted for going into real estate, and we hadn't said a word to anybody. So we took that as a sign. We said, okay, let me go. Literally went home that night, signed up for the class, and 3 months later, I'm sitting at my first brokerage company.
As you said, God was speaking, right? God was looking out for you there, man. That's awesome. That's a great story. Okay, so you started in 2002. You were a single agent. This is where we'll get to kind of a little bit of the topic, and we're going to talk about, your mindset. We're going to talk about your strategy, your systems, and things like that. But give us the journey, okay? So you started in 2002. You had your, first, kind of half year. Then you had 55, right? 55 homes in your whole year, right, by yourself. Then what happens? Then what happens to Craig?
Then I realized that, to maintain that pace, I was going to either lose my family and my wife and everything else, or lose myself, because I would burn out. And so I was in a GRI, I think it was like a GRI 3 class. And the guy was like, hey, if you're closing more than $3.5 million of real estate, you should hire an assistant. And I
Yeah.
thought, hire an assistant? That's crazy. I can't do that. I can't be having to worry about trying to pay for somebody else. But then, I thought back and said, well, if I don't, what do I do? I have to do less business or just have no life. And so I found someone, interviewed them, and basically I hired them and paid them a flat fee, monthly, like a salary, and gave them bonuses whenever I sold something.
Got it.
So that second year in 2004 was very good because I did about 70 houses that year with the admin. Still didn't take much time off, but it was the start of something good.
Sure. And Craig, your first admin, it didn't seem like at the time, I know now it would be different, but it didn't seem at the time that there was much structure to it. It was just, hey, here's some stuff, you do what I say, and I'm going to pay you when things close.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So basically what I did was I literally sat down and I wrote out exactly every step of what I had to do to help somebody buy and to help somebody sell a house. Like from step one, find somebody that's got to sell a house, right? Lead generate, right? And then follow up and then go on the appointment. So I wrote all these things down. And then when I sat down, I began to realize that, wow, if I hire somebody to do this, this, and this, it would take that off of my plate. And so that became the job description for me.
Right.
So what I learned was that about 60% of the time that I spent with a buyer, it was, my computer just did something weird, was administrative work.
Right.
On the selling side, on the listing side, about 70% of the tasks that had to happen were all admin work. So I thought, if I hire somebody and give them the job description of doing these tasks for me, I can free up a whole lot of time so I can go back and do the things that generate money, lead generate, lead follow up, go on appointments, convert clients.
So your mindset there, Craig, right? You were thinking as a business owner out of the gates a little bit, right? Almost kind of like, hey, wait a minute. I see that my time here I can leverage some stuff out.
Yeah, well, and I wouldn't say it was like I was that smart or so entrepreneurial. It was more of a need, I knew that I was very, very good at connecting with people. I was very good at finding people. I was very good at, meeting them for the first time and building rapport and trust quickly. I just was not very good at following up with them.
Yeah.
And I was horrendous at all the little detail, minutia paperwork and checking on the title company to get what they need and then writing contracts. I hated writing contracts.
Right.
I wanted to just tell somebody, this is what we're doing and let them do it. So that was kind of my jam. Stay in my lane.
That's awesome. So, where you sound very confident. You said, yeah, and then I hired my first assistant and stuff like that. Some of the newer agents that are listening to this or on this call, that leap of faith, okay, you took it. You went from 55 to 70 transactions. What advice would you give them on that?
So, the first thing I would say is this: if you are selling 1 or 2 houses a month consistently, you probably don't need an admin. You're probably doing just fine. If that's where you want to be, it's okay. Like I tell people, listen, you don't have to be the top producing agent in the world. Okay. You can make a great living and have peaceful life and make that's okay. However, if you want to go to the next level, when you're doing 3 to 5 transactions every single month on average, you probably need some help. Okay, because there's probably opportunity. First of all, if you are even able to generate that kind of transactional volume by yourself, that means you're different. Okay, and so there's probably opportunities there for you if you can find leverage, and that's literally what team is. I mean, the core of team is leverage for a purpose.
Wow. I love that. You're different, right? Like if you're doing that volume, you're a rock star. You're out there doing it. So that's great. And that's awesome. So Greg, what about, so then we got our first admin, we go to 77. Okay. Let's go to this. Let's walk through the topic of building a team. When you recognize that, hey, I just went from 55 to 70 with one person, right? What's the next step for you?
Well, so at the end of 2004, what I did, because I at that time I had a black notebook, okay, a 3-ring binder notebook, where every time I met somebody, I would write their name in the notebook, and then I would put a S if they were a potential seller, or a B if they were a buyer, or a S/B if they were both, okay. So at the end of the year, I would go back through my notebook and I would look at all the people who I'd made contact with, great connections and everything else, but they never bought with me. I'd take their names and I'd put it in the public records.
Okay.
And I would see that they bought a house, and then I go, shoot. And so then I go into the MLS, and then I would pull up the address and I would look and see who their agent was. And then what I noticed was, at the end of that year, even though we sold so many houses, I had about 30, 40 houses, people who bought homes that I had come into contact with, but because I was so busy with the other ones, I didn't follow up, and they moved on with another agent and bought homes with them. And so I realized that there may be an opportunity here, because I looked around my office and I was the only one selling houses at the level that I was selling. So I figured there was probably somebody else in that office that could benefit from another 20, 30, 40 house sales a year. And so I thought, maybe I could put together something where we can work together. And then right around this time, when I was going through my GRI classes, or it might have even been one of my I was getting my broker's license also at this time. I was in one of the classes, and the girl was teaching the class, and she had a real estate team. Yeah. And at that time in Gainesville, there was probably 2 or 3 teams that existed in Gainesville only, because we're a smaller market. And, but I couldn't really call them up and find out how they did what they did, because we were competitors. Sure. And so this girl was doing this class on teams. I mean, she was doing the class, but she had a team. Right. And so during one of the breaks, I stopped her and I said, hey, can I ask you about how your team works? You know? Yeah. And so she began to share with me how she had it structured. And it was like her and her cousin and her sister and her brother, family business, you know? Right. Anyway, I learned some things, and from there, I couldn't tell you what the whole class was after that, because for the whole rest of that class, all I did was try to figure, I got to put a team together.
You were mapping out what your team was going to look like. Right?
Yeah, who do I need and what positions and what roles. Yeah. See, now with KW, it's easy.
Yeah, right. Now they have the blueprint for us.
Just read the red book, right? That's pretty much how it works now. I had to figure that stuff out because I wasn't with KW back then.
Here's the blueprint. So yeah, I mean, in the early 2000s, right? Or even, teams were just a new concept, right? Like everyone.
Well, they had been around for a long time. However, it wasn't like a big, it wasn't as popular as it is right now.
As it is now. Yeah, got it. Okay. So after your first assistant, who was the next hire?
So the first hire I made, and again, this is the, now reading the red book, I would do this all differently. Okay. But back then, not knowing, my second hire was a buyer agent. So I found a guy who I knew, and he was brand new in the business, and I brought him on my team. He became my first buyer agent. And then I just kept adding buyer agents. And then what we didn't know in 2005 was that that's when we started our team. We started our team in 2005, but we had no idea at that time what the market was going to do, the real estate market. So all of a sudden, the real estate market starts going insane, kind of like it's been doing for the past few years here now. And so we just began to add people. And so then I began to add more agents, and then eventually I had to hire a second admin, and we broke up the roles, where I had one admin handling all the closings, and I had another admin handling all the seller needs. So we had a listing manager, and then we had a closing manager. This was all organic, just based on needs that we had at that time. There was no red book model. I'm making it up. I'm making it up as I go along. Had a showing assistant. I actually hired somebody on salary to be a showing assistant for me personally, because I didn't have any time anymore to go out and work with buyers. So I had to focus on the listings, and I gave all the buyers to the buyer agents. And then for those folks that wanted to work with me personally on the buying side, I had my showing assistant that would take them out and show them houses. And then I would write the contracts and all that kind of thing.
So how many transactions are you doing during this time? I know this is the peak before the crash in the Florida market, right? So how many transactions, when you say I'm adding buyers agents and I'm adding another admin person, give us some context around that. How many transactions roughly was that?
Back then?
Yeah.
Back then, collectively, we were probably doing about 125, 135 houses, somewhere in that range.
Got it. Okay, so a good amount. In 2005, those are good numbers, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's continue through this journey, right? So you got a bunch of buyers agents, you got one transaction manager, and you got pseudo listing manager, right? That you didn't even
Listing
just know.
manager, hired
Yeah.
somebody to do marketing for me. Oh, it was beautiful. We were jamming. The market was great, right? We're all flying high. This is going to be the new normal. Oh, it's awesome. Oh man, we were selling. I got billboards and videos and like commercials, and I can't
Everyone
walk.
knows me,
Oh, bro, I can't walk through the mall without
Yeah,
people stopping me talking about Team Dynamo, team, right? That was
autograph.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then all of a sudden, I had this new construction project that I was selling in Gainesville, and we had a lot of buyers that were buying out of Miami because
Yeah.
back then the Miami market was so high that Gainesville, our little town, was cheap real estate to them, so they were scooping up our stuff. Well, all of a sudden, what happened was we started having deals fall out. Right, these Miami buyers were backing out of contracts, and we thought, what the heck's going on? This is like 07,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, why is this happening? All of a sudden, the sales slowed down. Right, so what we didn't know was 2008 was coming.
Right.
And 08 came and the market collapsed, and then we had to restructure everything, had to let people go and downsize, and it was awful. Then somebody says, talking about a shift, right? Somebody says, hey, we're going to have a class we're going to bring to your board. It's on how to do a short sale.
Okay.
I thought, what the heck is a short sale? I mean, I'd never heard that before.
Right.
And we go into this classroom, and the guy gets up and does this whole thing. And he's halfway through the presentation. I said, I get up. I literally stood up in the class. I said, stop. I said, stop it. He says, yeah. I was like, what's going on? This guy's crazy. And I said, are you telling us that you can sell somebody's house for less than what they owe on their mortgage?
Right. Yeah.
He's like, yeah. I said, I'm in. Okay. I was like, that's what I need right now. I need to know how to do that. And I became the number one short sale salesperson in this city, because that's where, I would go on a listing appointment and I'd bring my comps. I have my laptop and I have my box of tissues.
Yeah.
Oh, true story, right? And so I'd sit there and I'd put the tissues on the table, and people say, well, what are the tissues for? I said, we're going to need this before we're all done here today.
Right. Yeah.
All right. After we go through this market. And it was, 8 times out of 10, we were in those tissues. Okay. Because it was, people didn't know. They had no idea. Right. So anyway, all that happens, and, we have to just rally through the shift.
I'm smiling, Craig, because it wasn't. I lived through it. I was started in 2001, and I was doing a lot of developments at the time in 2006 and 7. And we were tracking our numbers, right? And there was 25 people coming in, and 20 of them were writing contracts. And then all of a sudden, it was like in about a month's time, it was like those 20 people, 18 of them were returning the contracts and saying, keep the earnest money, and we were like, what the heck is going on? So the writing was on the wall. I remember it vividly. It was crazy. Okay, so you get through this, right? Because you pivot to short sale.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you built Team Dynamo moving forward. Okay, so I'm assuming you had to leave people go. What does that journey look like as far as, all right, so I had short sales. Now I'm gonna you made a decision and a strategy that, hey, I'm gonna build a team. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Talk to us about what steps you took to build such a dynamic team, because you're the number one in Gainesville, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it depends on how you look at the numbers, right?
Well,
so
right. You're number one. You're number one in my book, Greg.
Okay,
so.
that's all that matters. And I'm good.
There you
I'm
go.
all
there you
good.
Go. Looking at those numbers. So let's talk to our audience about how you rebuilt this team.
So the market crashed. We, of course, back in 08, we did a whole lot of transitioning, and people got out of the business. And actually around that time, a new company came to Gainesville. I was with a local independent company, and a new company came to Gainesville probably about like in 2006, I think it was. This company was called Keller Williams. And they had not been here in Gainesville before, but they came in, and some of my agents left because they had this pyramid scheme they were doing.
Yeah.
And
that
then
guy with the mustache, right? The guy with the mustache.
Yeah. They had this pyramid scheme where you bring people in and you make money off them, and then they had this thing where you can get 100% of your commission. Blah 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 blah, whatever. So some of my people left and went to this company. And, so we just said, no problem. We're the established, here I am. I'm at the number one company. We just happen to be a local independent company. And I'm the number one agent at this company. We'll just keep trudging along. So the market did what it does. And well, around that same time in like 2010 is when, like I mentioned before, about the serving on the association side.
Sure.
Well, I started getting really interested in that. And so what happened for me was, I realized that every time that I had to go to a Florida Realtor meeting or NAR meeting or whatever, that I couldn't be home, couldn't be in two places at the same time.
Sure.
And I began to become on this quest of how can I possibly do it where I have the ability to be gone from my job, so to speak, and still receive income. That became a huge focus for me. And so my broker at the time, him and I, we would meet and talk and try to figure out, how we can do it. Maybe we should franchise the company. I can do that, just all kinds of ideas, but we can never put anything together. But meanwhile, I'm still selling and building, and the market's starting to change now. Back in 2013, 2014, right. Early 2014 comes around. And I can't tell you, again, kind of like going back to when I told you I was at Alltel and we're having lunch and I hear this voice and I'm kind of like, same kind of thing began to happen again in 2014, early 2014. So where I felt like the intensity, the urgency was getting hot. So I called my broker up. I said, hey, man, listen, I said, we got to figure this thing out because I need to be able to put more time into other areas. And I can't do that if I got to always be here showing houses and on listing appointments. Right. So I said, I'm either going to go start my own company or go talk to other brokers or whatever. Yeah. Long story short, in 2014 is when I was introduced for the first time to Keller Williams. And what ended up happening was they invited me out to Austin, Texas in September of 2014. Mm-hmm. And I went to my first mega camp. And that was the most eye-opening experience that I've ever had. It was the first time in a long time that I was actually in a room full of people where I was the low man on the totem pole. Yeah, right. When it came to real estate. And I loved it because I was looking for that. I was looking for that motivation, that drive to say, I want to be around people who are doing bigger, better things, that are smarter than me, that I can learn from, because I'm the one giving all the instruction. And so anyway, came back to Gainesville, and the Keller Williams at that time in 2014 was going out of business. They were getting ready to close the doors on it because it wasn't succeeding here. Yeah, right. And so we came back, man, and we few of us came over to KW to kind of breathe life back into it at the end of 2014, not knowing what we're doing. I wound up meeting Kristen Cole in July of that same year, and she was doing like a little expansion light. That's what they used to kind of draw me in. Yeah. Because I thought the idea of expansion, building teams in other places was very interesting to me. Right. So in 2014 we came over and rebuilt the company, as we're still doing, and now we're the largest real estate company in Gainesville 5 years later. Wow, good for you guys, man. That's a great story. But yeah, I know that feeling walking into mega camp for the first time, our family reunion. I was like, whoa. there's a lot of people doing this at a high level that I don't even know about. So that's great. But it was inspiring to me. And so, and then I realized that I was doing team all the wrong way. Right. So I literally, even though I've been doing Team Dynamo since 2005, I just 5 years ago learned how to do team the correct way. Got it. And so I had to literally just take everything that I had built and done and had to toss it, and we had to start all over again. So 2015 was our first year as this new iteration of Team Dynamo, having to learn it all. And I had such great support from so many people around the country who had done it at a high level, that were so open and willing to talk to me and give me time and to help me, figure out how to put things in place, because every market is different. And so some of the things that work in Chicago are not going to work in Gainesville and vice versa. So I had to be cognizant of that. And so I was very thankful for the support that we had. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's the environment, right? Is people helping each other. So Craig, talk us through how you built the team up from 2015 to what it looks like today. Right on. So what we did back in 2015, we came in, it was about eight of us that came over between admin and salespeople. And, again, we're just trying to figure out, how do we pay everybody? How does this compensation model? What's the right model? Who's going to do what? It was just a lot of churning, just trying to figure out how to keep people happy. And, agents were saying, well, I'm not getting enough split. And, I'm like, well, I'm not making enough money to be hiring these people to support you. Right. So a lot of that conversation. But we managed actually that year, when prior to prior to coming to Keller Williams, like I said, probably the most we ever sold as a group was about 140, 150 houses.
Okay.
Our first year with half of my team, because half my team came with me and the other half stayed. And the half that stayed were my top producing agents. And
Okay.
all my lower producing agents came with me to Keller Williams. And in that first year in 2015, we closed 178 houses that year. In the first year, not knowing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then the next year we closed 255 houses the next year in 16. Then when I realized that day was, we were doing great as far as production, but the culture that we had, the systems that we had inside the business were very weak and very poor. And so at the end of that year, our biggest year ever, my top 3 producers on my team surprised me with a great gift to tell me they were all leaving to start their own team. And so because they couldn't get what they wanted from our team, because I wasn't a good leader, from that standpoint back then.
Yeah.
And so they left and we had to rebuild. And so we went back out and, started finding people and changing things internally and just to try to survive. And then it took me after 2017, that was kind of just a don't let the boat sink year. We still were selling real estate on the outside. Nobody would have ever known, that there was any turbulence going on because, we're very good at hiding what's really happening. And so, but it was a lot going on internally. And so 2018, I wound up hiring some new people. And I basically spent 2018 just figuring out that what is the most important thing that we need to have to build a good team. After all, it's all said and done. And so the whole year of 2018, we put our focus not on production numbers and sales. We put our focus on building the culture, establishing who are we, what are we, who do we want to be a part of what we're doing, what's our purpose, what's our vision. We just spent literally the whole year doing that. Still sold a lot of houses. I think we sold about 190 houses that year. And then last year, 2019, we spent building the team, because the 2018 year for us was a year of a lot of self-discovery. And inside of that self-discovery, we realized that we didn't have the right fit of people. So we wound up having to dismantle essentially almost the whole team in the end of 2018. And then in 2019, we said, okay, let's build Team Dynamo. Right. So if I can save people, let me see, 14 years of trial, that would be a good thing. I feel very happy about that. So the number one thing I want to say is important for building a team is you have to know what your culture is. What do you want? Who are you? What's your vision? What do you want to come? And it's got to be bigger than just selling 300 houses or 1 million houses or whatever, or making $1 million or netting $1 million and giving them. It's got to be bigger than that, because what it requires to achieve those kind of things comes from you have to have a lot of people helping you, and they're not going to be there for you if you don't have a solid culture in place.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, in 2018, or when you worked on building your culture, it sounds like you followed like, hey, what are the mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspective, right?
Yes.
The VBP. So
yeah, we just basically do what Gary Keller says to do. It took me about 3.5 years, honestly, to submit all the way. It's kind of like, you still got this, I think I know, and my city is different. You just follow the model. When they came out with career visioning, I went to before it was called Recruit Select. And, I would go to those classes and, oh man, but are you kidding me? I got to do 7, 8 interviews with people. And are you kidding me? This is so much labor intensive. And we did that last year. So we literally, we took the time, and we had some people that I would have normally brought into my world without even an interview, because I just liked them on the surface. And that was my problem. I always brought people onto my team who I liked. The problem is I like everybody, right? Yeah. So you got to be
everyone likes me.
Yeah. This is kind of how, so we had to go through follow the systems that are put out before us to really make sure that this person is the right person for us and we're the right fit for them. So it was a lot of time last year, but we wound up hiring about 10 people.
The people who are on this call and the people who are listening in, are not going to see it on our YouTube channel. What systems? When you say systems, what system?
Okay. So, when you go into the red book, and I don't want to get into a whole lot of minutia, because you guys just get that MRE. Thank you. Get that MREA book and just read that book. Okay, read it and read it again, and then read it again, because they give you all of the systems that you need to follow. The budget models, even the biggest one that we did last year was all about the hiring, how to hire right. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems that I see people making, trying to build a team. And then they get frustrated because they hire the wrong people, or they put the wrong butts in the wrong seats. Right. And then when they have a lot of turmoil, they want to just give up and quit. And so, but everything in that book that is laid out for you to do, that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you have communication. So one of the biggest threats for any real estate team is poor communication. Yeah. So you have to have systems internally and processes of how everything works. We have to write everything down. So if I shared you our screen, like we have folders for, okay, so you want to list a house on this team. Here's step 1, 2, 3, so it's all done the same way. If you want to work with a buyer, here's how you do it. Step 1, 2, it's all written down. Very tedious, to get this stuff done. However, it is the only way to create consistency in the product delivery for the customer. And that is what's most important, because one of the biggest things, like us, the big control freaks, or the reason why they resist hiring anyone is because they're concerned that it's not going to be done the way that they would do it. Yeah. Well, I tend to think that that's a bad way to think about things. Right. I think that you should not want it to be done the way you would do it, because nobody is you. So the key thing would be to find someone that does it differently than you, but does it really, really well. And in some cases, you're going to find somebody that does it better than you, even though it's different than how you would do it.
That's great. That's great advice, Craig. So I want to get to this before we finish up here in like 10 minutes. And I see Quinn Keller. I'm working with Quinn right now. I'm building out some systems for her and her partner on their team. So Quinn, we're gonna talk about this, what Craig just said. But hey, Craig, mindset. All right. How important is mindset, and what advice would you give on that?
All right. So mindset is the most important thing for each individual to maintain. This season that we're in right now at this moment, with what's going on, has been one of the biggest threats to mindset, because I was just talking this morning to one of the agents on my team, and I was telling her my personal struggles with mindset, because I'm having to lead people. I'm having to stay positive. I'm having to find opportunities. I'm having to think outside the box. I'm having to be educated. Looking forward to this bold pivot in 20 minutes. I'm hoping a whole lot of y'all are going to be on the bold pivot today. So because that's all about mindset. Okay. So if you want to learn about mindset, tune in 20 minutes to bold pivot, and you're going to hear a lot about mindset today. Yeah. I called Tommy Choi up, and I said, hey brother, I see you doing this, your daily huddles. I said, man, I'm going to do that with my team. And we immediately began to implement that. And Tommy sent me, the format that they were using to do their huddles. And we've been doing that ever since. And it's been a great mindset adjustment for us. Yeah. Because I find that, when you're isolated, remember, people in real estate are generally very social, high social people. Right. And so this is also why I hate the term social distancing, because there's no social distancing going on. Okay. No. Yeah. Physical distancing, spatial distancing, sure, but it's not social distancing. Okay. We're highly social. And I found myself in my mind, when I would be around somebody in person and we're 6 feet apart, but we're talking, having a conversation, I started to feel uncomfortable, like I was doing something wrong. Because this would be socially distancing, and I'm, having a good social time, I said, I'm stopping that term. Right. So mindset is critical. I would encourage everybody to what I do is, when I wake up in the morning, every single morning, I'm taking some time to read something that is going to be encouraging, motivating, inspiring, or learning. I'm doing that to get my head right, because when I go to sleep and when I wake up, as soon as my brain turns on, I got 1,000 things popping and going. Okay. And so I got to quiet the noise in my own head. And so I will have to, the only way I can quiet the noise is to focus on something specific. And so I will find something to read, a devotional, a scripture, something that I'm going to go in there and then read about, and then take the time to get my mind space right so I can tackle the day.
That is awesome advice, right? That's awesome advice. You self-discovered, right, that you wanted to build a team.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The people who are listening or on this call that they don't know if they want to build a team,
Right.
right? Or if they should build a team.
Hmm.
What advice is Craig Wilburn giving them?
Don't, I want to say this. I want to say that don't look at other people, what you think they have, and envy or desire it because it looks great. Because, you don't know what's really going on behind the scenes. You don't know what it's really taking them to do what they do, what sacrifices they're having to make in order to have this thing that we put out there that looks so glamorous. If you're going to do the build a team, let it be because you're trying to get somewhere that you cannot get to on your own. All
Mhm.
right. So it's like, the only reason I built the team is because, I mean, look, I could, if I was wired to be content selling 30, 40 houses a year by myself and maybe having one admin, I would do that. Okay. I
Mhm.
would completely do that. I'm just not wired that way. Like I can't. Okay. So
Right.
for me, it's like, I'm always trying to find what's the next level. What can I go? What can I achieve? And so because of that, it requires me to spend a lot of time thinking about how do I add people that have talents and giftings that I don't have and create a space for them in my world where they can succeed in what they want.
Got it.
So one of the things that we do that I use all the time is I teach, and I also teach this, is the DISC profiling, that when we use it, when we hire people through KW, in addition to our KPAs, and it's a 30,000 foot view, but it can really help you to help put people with you that have skill sets that you don't have.
Right. Right. What's your disc, Craig?
I'm an ID.
An ID.
Yeah, IDS.
And what does that mean as a leader to you?
Yeah. So the I, the D, first of all, that's your dominant, your driver. That's
Mhm.
the thing that, makes you, lead and push and press and then very outgoingly in an outgoing way. Okay. Your I, this is your fun, crazy. Let's have a good time. Let's love people. Let's just, kumbaya, hold hands and, party and all that kind of fun stuff. Right. And then your S is your very sensitive, sweet, kind, sincere, more reserved, slow-paced side
Mhm.
of you. And then your C, that's your conscientious, your cautious, skeptical, detail-oriented, reserved, task-oriented part of who you are as a human being. And so I'm an ID. As a leader, you can be all those characteristics lead. Okay, they can all lead. D's tend to lead primarily because it's just who they are. The ID, so the secondary trait that you are is typically where you go when the world or life squeezes you. So me, I'm the most fun, happy-go-lucky, hang out, let's party. Hey, just I don't care, free for
Yep.
all, right? But when I feel life squeezing me, I turn into my driver. Let's get stuff done. I'm not as personable anymore. I just want to get the business done. Let's know the next thing, next thing, next thing. Why don't you do this? Can't you figure this thing out? Like, you turn into it. You turn into more of a D. So
Got
that's
it.
my profile.
That's awesome. All right, Craig, our current environment, what advice can you give anybody with the team, without a team? What advice can you give all the people out there doing right now that, given the state that we are in?
All right, so you got to pivot. All right, obviously. So the things that we used to do before, some of those things will remain. Many of those things will change. Some things will change temporarily. Some things will change forever. And so we were doing videos on houses and that kind of thing long before any of this thing jumped off. We are always looking for new ways to innovate, and to create ways of getting people's attention to us. With the business having decreased the way it is, and the real estate agents having not decreased at the same pace that the market has decreased, it's going to require us all to keep our minds focused on lead generation and creative ways to lead generate. We spent that first few weeks, it was all about touching people, giving them a call, checking in on you, how you doing, what's going on, what can we do to help you? All right, we did that phase. That's gone now. Okay, people, we got it. Now it's time to get back into that mode of, hello, the market's great, inventory is low, competition is low. Are you looking to buy or sell? We are here to help, and we are able to help you. And here's how we can do it, because we've already put together the protocol for helping you go through the home selling process without violating any of the CDC guidelines. Okay, so everybody should have something written down, and I'd be more than happy if to share with you guys. I can email it to you, Joe. what we do, what we use, how we go through our process, because we have them all written down now.
Yeah.
And it's a great marketing tool, by the way, because when people are concerned or not knowing, how they can, how do they navigate the home buying or selling process? Is it safe to do it? We're showing people that it's very, very safe, and we're doing it at a high level right now.
That's awesome. Craig, we can't thank you enough for your time, my man. This has been awesome, brother. Awesome. Will you email that over to me? So you got my email address, but you email that over to me. So anyone that wants it, email me directly or reach out to me directly, and I will get it over to you guys so Craig can do that. But Craig, people are going to want to refer you in Gainesville, Florida, but they're also going to want to pick your brain. So how do people get a hold of you?
I'll put my contact information here in the notes here, and then you guys can reach out to me before we close this thing out here. I'll put it all in here.
Cool.
All right.
Greg, I just want to tell you that we're very honored that you joined us today. Thank you very much. Your energy is amazing. You're the man. We're looking forward to, we're all going to be there's a bunch of us that are going to be on this call in 20 minutes, right? How many people are they up to now? No, like 20,000 or something?
There's more than two. Got to be like probably close to 30 now.
30,000. That's
I would imagine.
Yeah. So guys, we're going to be for all you who are doing it, bold pivots in 20 minutes. So let's go and do it. So Craig, thanks so much for your time. Guys, tomorrow we're back at it with Lucas and Elisa Howard from Grand Rapids, Michigan. They're selling over 400 homes a year. And right now they are going to break it down on how to catapult your business with 3 priorities. How to catapult your business with 3 priorities. So make sure that you tune in tomorrow. Craig, you're the man, bro.
Thanks, guys. Peace out. All right, Tommy.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.